Clock News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. The massive renovation plans for Metro Park in Billings are starting to take shape with help from county residents. Over the past year, the grandstands and livestock barns have been torn down and planners are going to the residents to see what will go in their place. Tonight was the second in a series of listening sessions that look to incorporate ideas from people in the rural parts of Yellowstone County. Q2's Mitch Legge reports from the public meeting in Lockwood.
At a listening session Tuesday night inside the Lockwood High School auditorium, architects for the Metro Park Master Plan took public comment from people looking to shape the future of the 189-acre event space in Yellowstone County. About 20 people showed up to share their input. The meeting started with an hour-long informal discussion, led by Cushing-Terrell urban planner Dave Dixon. That was followed by people placing stickers on various maps to indicate their preferences. Many ideas were floated about how to better facilitate agricultural events on the property that rests in the heart of Billings, including better entrances and exits for vehicles to the south onto Old Highway 87, more bathrooms across the grounds, and more separation between livestock and the public. A sentiment from the wider group was that people need to be better directed around the large campus. Attendees said many people don't even know that there's a backside to Metro Park and would accidentally park their cars a long way away from their destination. This was the second of 4 listening sessions in the county communities surrounding Billings. A common theme across both so far was the public asking for smart spending.
If you put something out there and make sure it's well connected to the community, really think about all the factors that are involved here. How does it make Metro Park look to somebody who might want to host an event there? All these things that are kind of spinning around that we know are out there. If you're gonna intervene and do something new, make sure it makes sense for the greatest amount of people possible.
On an average year, Metro Park has $151 million of economic impact to the area, with 182 event days per year. There are more design sessions to come, where people can have a hand in actually placing features across the park property. In Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch. Another listening session is scheduled to happen tomorrow at the Laurel High School auditorium, and the final session is scheduled for Thursday at the Yellowstone Valley Electric Co-op in Huntley. Both of those sessions start at 5:30. More details released today surrounding last Friday's pursuit and standoff that ended with 2 men dead and 1 woman behind bars. Police tell us the man who ran through a West End neighborhood, holed up in a home, and died after a 9-hour standoff and shootout with police took his own life. Police say an autopsy confirms that 26-year-old Michael Mcclures died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The fatal injury happened after Mcclures had pointed a gun at law enforcement and had been hit by multiple rounds from the SWAT team. Captain Neil Lawrence says the rounds from law enforcement were not fatal. Authorities also tell us Mcclures has a significant criminal record in Yellowstone County. He was also a suspect in last week's shooting in the 4100 block of King Avenue East. And we've been digging deeper into Michael Mcclures' record to find his list of crimes reaches even further. January of 2019, Mcclures was arrested in Muscle County, charged with 3 felonies and 3 misdemeanors for stealing 2 cars, then attempting to escape from the Muscle County jail. He pled not guilty and was later released on his own recognizance. In August of 2020, Mcclures was arrested in Powell County on suspicion of felony robbery and inflicting bodily injury to another person. Then just last month, Mcclures went to trial in Muscle County, made a plea deal to plead guilty to most of the charges, but never showed up despite having an ankle monitor. Well, the woman captured during the incident faces a felony charge of deliberate homicide by accountability. Court documents say that 31-year-old Christy Chavez and Mcclures abducted and assaulted 33-year-old Dennis Gresham at the Yellowstone River campground near Billings. Chavez told authorities the 2 approached Gresham's van early Friday morning, asked for a cigarette and a ride. Gresham told them no, and the suspects allegedly forced their way into the van with guns. Chavez says the altercation continued in the van as Chavez climbed into the driver's seat to drive away. She says she heard 5 gunshots and told detectives she thought that Gresham was dead. Authorities say later that day, the 2 led law enforcement on a high-speed chase that ended on 43rd Street West in Billings. Authorities captured Chavez and Mcclures broke into a nearby home before that standoff began. Well, sharp blades, blunt objects, and items that come to a stark point, all things considered deadly on an airplane. In recent months, Billings Airport security has confiscated as many as 4 guns and plenty of other weapons. As Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, there's an added awareness as the travel season ramps up.
We're soon approaching 20 years since 9/11, and people are still trying to bring weapons and sharp items through security. So we're taking a look at some of the most bizarre items that people are trying to fly with.
We still see box cutters regularly. That was the weapon of choice of the 9/11 hijackers, and people are still bringing those in their carry-on luggage.
And tools, knives, ammo, and guns.
Firearms parts are not allowed. We don't want someone to bring a part of a firearm and someone else to bring another part.
This is a look at just some of the prohibited items collected by TSA in a couple of months.
I mean, this, for example, would have no need to be in my carry-on. It's heavy, and I wouldn't need it. That's why you shouldn't bring it.
Lori Dankers with TSA says agents often shake their heads in amazement at what folks will try to tote on a plane.
A container full of gasoline, which is highly flammable. No need for that on the plane. People have been known to bring things like chainsaws.
In recent years, the amount of those items is staggering, with as much as 350 pounds of prohibited items confiscated at security. And while that amount dipped in 2020 due to the pandemic, she anticipates it's set to increase again.
We're planning to move right now into a very busy summer travel season. We know there's a pent-up travel demand, and for people who put off trips to see friends or family, they're going to be traveling this summer, and we expect to see a record-breaking summer as compared to 2019.
She says the rules for what not to bring are pretty straightforward.
Anything longer than 7 inches, anything with a blade is not allowed. We should know that we don't need to bring bludgeoning devices into the cabin of the aircraft, that we don't need to bring knives with blades.
And she says if you're unsure, there's plenty of places to find out.
They may say that they didn't know they weren't allowed, but that's not really an excuse. Every day people bring things they're not supposed to bring, and ironically, there are so many resources available to travelers, so you know what you should and you should not bring. Ask yourself with a little critical thinking, should I bring this in my carry-on luggage or should I check it?
In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thanks, Andrea. And if you have any questions about what's allowed, Andrea says check out the TSA website or social media pages. Now turning to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh in the Weather Center. And Ed, this sounds like it's right up your alley. It involves weather and cameras.
That's right. There's a movie that's going to be shot right here in Montana. In fact, around the Billings area called Supercell. Alec Baldwin plays like the heavy in the movie, but they're looking for extras. They say preferably people with SUVs, pickups, or other storm chasing style vehicles, which is basically everybody I know. So you can check out the information there if you're interested in perhaps working on the movie. This is more of a bucket list sort of thing. When you take a look at what the pay rate is, it will cost you the better part of a day's pay just to take you and a companion and have a little popcorn and watch the movie that you're supposed to be in. They do have a part for an aging TV weatherman with a receding hairline. I might read for it. Back with a look at the forecast coming up in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Ed. If you're fully vaccinated, you can now ditch your masks for most outdoor activities. The Centers for Disease Control issued that new guidance this morning saying fully vaccinated people don't have to wear a mask if they're attending small outdoor gatherings with other fully vaccinated and even unvaccinated people. However, the CDC still recommends vaccinated people wear a mask if they're attending a crowded outdoor event such as a sporting event or a concert. Masks are still recommended at most indoor gatherings, including a full capacity indoor religious service or going to the movies. The CDC defines someone as being fully vaccinated if 2 weeks have passed after their second dose in a 2-dose vaccine or 2 weeks after a single-dose vaccine. Well, the Montana House gives final approval to the major bill for implementing recreational marijuana. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian looks at what will come next as the state approaches the start of legal sales.
House Bill 701 was introduced less than 1 month ago. Since then, it's been through the House and Senate, been heavily amended twice, and been tabled and revived. And now it's on its way to Governor Greg Gianforte's desk. On Tuesday, the House endorsed the Senate's version of the bill, 62-38 on a preliminary vote, then passed it 67-32 on a final vote less than an hour later.
But we will walk out of this session having, delivered forward to the people of Montana something that works.
The decision came just a day after the House voted to reject the Senate's changes to the bill and send it to a conference committee, then reconsidered their action shortly after. Representative Mike Hopkins, a Republican from Missoula, sponsored HB 701. He said he understood why people wanted to take another look at the bill, but that this was the best option for implementing recreational marijuana, and it would have been a mistake to reject the amendments.
The ramp that we have to the end of the legislative session, the work that the Senate had already done, and the agreements that they had already come to, meant that sending this bill back to a conference committee wouldn't outright kill it, but would go about as far towards killing it as you could go without killing it, right? It was a bad idea.
The bill still drew opposition Tuesday from conservative Republicans in the House. They had concerns about the use of marijuana tax revenue, and especially about the provision allowing counties to ask for a local option tax on marijuana sales.
Plant your flag on this day, because this was the day that we opened the door to this new tax that will find its way into communities as that argument gets traction. And we will rue the day that we did this.
Under HB 701, existing medical marijuana providers would be able to get licensed to sell to recreational customers starting January 1st, 2022. They would be the only ones allowed to enter the market for the first 18 months. Counties would be able to opt out of allowing recreational marijuana businesses if their voters supported the legalization initiative I-190. If a county's voters rejected 190, they would have to specifically opt in to allowing those businesses. In a statement to MTN, a spokesperson for the governor's office said Gianforte is encouraged by the progress of HB 701 and will carefully review the bill when it reaches his desk. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Well, House Bill 701 would direct some of the revenue from marijuana sales to Governor Gianforte's Heart Fund for mental health and substance abuse treatment. Still to come on the NTM 10 o'clock news here on Q2, the Montana Women's Run has countless benefits, but for one Billings woman, it may have helped save her life. We'll explain coming up next. Then a little later in sports, from Bryce Harper to Mike Trout, a once dying hobby booming once again. Tell you about that coming up in just a minute.